everyone, welcome to episode 127 of Formidable Opponents, a show that picks three people who have known each other virtually their entire lives in a series of conversations as we argue what is best in a variety of fun, engaging, and critical pop culture topics we all debate about. I'm Randall, and with me as always, Bob and Joseph, and this week's topic is Best New Metal Song. Best new metal song. Is there really such a thing? To quote Mud Shovel by Stained, you can't feel my anger, you can't feel my pain when discussing this topic. However, to be fair to all the divorced dads out there with barbed wire tattoos and bad genes, there is a place in history for all genres. We even talked about one last episode with disco. Although new metal was much maligned, vilified, and slandered, you cannot deny the space it occupies in rock history, in pop history, and it gave a platform for white guys sporting dreadlocks outside of their all-inclusive beach resort vacations. No matter what anyone's thoughts, new metal resonated with a generation. The blending of genres of metal, hip-hop, grunge, and electronic music gave listeners a different sound, a new sound. It gave a generation a sound of their own. It wasn't all noise. They were relatable themes that spoke to the disillusioned and disconnected. And when music speaks to you at an accessible and personal level, you cannot deny its impact. The genre took full advantage of the cultural shift of the late 90s to the early 2000s. MTV and radio were driving listeners down a one-lane highway, and new metal created an extra lane for the rebellious and aggressive to carpool. It was a do-it-yourself aesthetic that appealed to those who have a counterpoint and who kept those heavy riffs and that new rock spirit of assertiveness alive. No matter what your take on new metal's prominence, it was just not a passing movement. It was a culture. It created space, and its legacy of uniting diverse sounds in power and music still lives on, and it still inspires. This week, Formidable Opponents debate and discuss Best New Metal Song. With me, as always, are two guys who take me one step closer to the edge and I'm about to break. Bob and Joseph, how are you guys doing?
At your age, you should worry about breaking a hip.
Yeah, you should have just done the intro to Twist.
No, he would have hurt his throat.
Talking about Korn's Twister. What's up, everybody? Joseph's in a bad mood. He's losing a lot of his fantasy football players.
It's been a while, sir. It's been a while.
We could use that song for this episode, right?
Yeah.
Been a while.
Anyway.
You know, we can finally use that song, and I know we've been off an extra week, and during that extra week, guys, I've binged the Menendez brothers and the Aaron Hernandez murder series. Couple that with Netflix streaming Lopez versus Lopez, it hasn't been a very good past few weeks for Latinos on television. I'm just saying. Since we're talking new metal, guys, do we want to start off by everyone giving your best impression of Disturbed?
No.
No takers on a Sunday night. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, we'll pass. Yeah,
no numma, no nothing. Okay.
There, we're done.
Nemon.
So, Joseph, you chose this topic, and back in high school, you looked like every kid that was in the audience in a new metal video. Tell us why we are talking about new metal this week and why you enjoy dark bedrooms.
This time in music and its effect on the music industry, on culture, it's finally time for us to do it. I mean, I've been waiting to do something like
for
this
a girl like you.
I mean, there's other topics I want to talk about, but this is more this is a great one. We've all kind of thrown our 2 cents in. At least it's a great one to me. I finally get to talk about some of these bands that I really, really liked and really enjoyed. And I know I'm not the only one. I know Bob was listening to a lot of these songs and these
for sure
too. So it's not just me. I mean, it's a good thing. Plus, it was fun to make Rand listen to songs and musicians that he probably really isn't into. So.
Now, but Bob, you're into this music, right? Or you were?
Yeah, for sure. I'm
am.
a big fan. I was a big fan of new metal. It's like right in line with our early high school years and high school years. So this is shit we used to jam to a ton in high school. And a lot of these bands, I mean, they great stuff. Like especially us football players, like heavier rock.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say.
Rock, so
football, man. It was
really
the
fit the mold for us. Like Slipknot was something completely different for us. So when it came out, crazy good shit. You know, I really, really like that band. But yeah, it was definitely my kind of music then. People that have listened to us for a long time know, you know, I'm a huge 70s rock, 60s, 70s rock fan, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, stuff like that. But yeah, new metal, I was definitely jamming to this in high school.
I will say this. I love the fact that this was an actual music movement. There hasn't been a lot of different rock music movements since new metal. I'm sure there's been a few, but everything now, you go to 2000s mainstream rock, modern day mainstream rock, and there's not a lot to chew off the bone. Modern mainstream music is now just John Bon Jovi singing, "You gotta be the best you can be. Doesn't matter where you're from." I mean, there is no like rock music out there that really captures the spirit. And I think new metal was one of the last sort of rock movements that really captured a culture's identity. Do you guys think that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that you should never do a Bon Jovi impression again. But also, I think that between the garage rock revival that we talked about a few weeks ago and new metal, that was kind of like bringing up, or you know, different kind of genre of rock and roll that was old but new and different, and it was a really cool time in the early 2000s that we had this kind of thing. And I agree that lately, or as of late, there's definitely no rock music that or new, challenging, different, that type of thing. We're just getting, you know, rehashes of like old music, you know. So yeah, it was definitely a great time for music. As much as you might not like new metal, Rand, it was 2000s had a cool little change to it. Yeah, it's because he complains about the barbed wire arm tattoos and the weird jeans, but if they had pretty blue tattoos, you know, colorful with tight jeans like Arcade Fire, fuck, he'd be all over.
That I will not dispute. So I want to ask both of you, what does new metal mean to you and your generation?
Well, to me, a lot. I mean, it's like we said, it was pretty much everything that I listened to during high school. The style, I was very much into it. You know, the baggy jeans, the big t-shirts. I had at least one pair of Adidas track pants. I had multiple, I had multiple
Puma
pairs,
shoes, Adidas shells.
Adidas shoes, Adidas shells, and also, and then going into Puma. Yeah, I did the whole thing. You know, with if Korn's wearing Adidas, now Korn's wearing Puma, so I was getting Puma shoes. It really meant a lot to me, man. It was really important to me because whether people want to admit it or not, like I think people were still into heavy music because, or people got into heavy music, or heavy music continued, albeit different with this you know era of music, this quote unquote genre and this style. Whether you want to admit it or not, it did bring to the forefront some heavier music. It brought that back. It was different from traditional heavy metal music and whatnot, but it was there. And I think, you know, like I said, for me in high school, with, you know, sports, you know, Bob and I were both into multiple sports and whatnot. And this was, you know, it wasn't just so much just good songs to listen to at the same time. It was like a real get up and get you going situation, while we were, you know, training. So, but yeah, like I said, really important because it was like, it's everything I listened to. It was my whole style, you know.
I'm glad that we had a rock genre for our high school years. You know what I mean? I don't think like the generations nowadays can really say that. Like, what sound do you have? What, you know, everything's kind of like all over the place or rehashed, or, you know, at least we could say when we were in high school, we had new metal. It's like in 90s they had grunge, and then, you know, 80s they had flamboyant hair rock, and then, you know, 70s they had the good shit, 60s, you know, even better shit. So I'm glad that when we had this style of rock music during our high school years, because it gives us a voice or sound that's not the fucking Backstreet Boys or something ridiculous that was going on at that point in time. We had our own rock music. You know, it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I love the integration, the flavors of hip hop and rock and shit like that. It wasn't what we've already were accustomed to. So yeah, I'm glad we kind of got something that we can be like, oh yeah, that's our music from our high school years.
The Backstreet Boys catching a stray on that one. so new metal's
got plenty of strays.
So new metal's peak was from 1998 to about 2003, and it benefited from straddling the course of 2 decades, unlike grunge or disco that were very much decade-specific genres. So it means a lot more people of your age, Bob and Joseph, because you were in high school and middle school at the time.
Young.
Yes, but for me, this was my last run with a rock genre of my youth. This was like the very end tail point, because we all have that.
The very end.
I'm talking about like mid-20s. We all have that 10 to 13 year window of youth where it will be
Youths.
youth. Yeah, where music will be the most connected to you, the way you feel it, the way you live it, the way it speaks to you. And unfortunately for me, it ended with Fred Durst rhyming the word care with care and telling me to shut the fuck up. But I remember gatherings and hangouts from college and grad school where this music was being blasted, and at the end of a drunken night, you welcomed it. It saved you from passing out in your hoodie and blazing with skulls. And by the way, for a genre that preached no fashion was fashion, I mean, we had, and you mentioned a few of these guys, tracksuits, chain wallets, beanies, spiked and dyed hair. I mean, for me, I can admit that this was my last grasp for youth, but new metal was usually blasting in the background. Did you, and Joseph, you said you wore all these things, right?
I used to bleach my hair and everything, man.
A lot of gel in his
I had
hair
it all,
too, to
dude.
spike it
Spiked
up.
hair, you know. And then when I had long hair, I was still like spiking it. I was doing these like dread-esque spikes that were like, you know, down the side of my head and face. So like, yeah, man, I was like full on, and I mean, but yeah, I never like steered far away from heavy metal music at all. This was just a new take, you know. I was very much into, you know, the 80s heavy metal and the 90s heavy metal. This was just a new take on that I really ran with, you know. I was really into. I was, you know, not going to school
Really into
in the morning because I was going to, you know, Best Buy to go buy a CD as soon as they open, and then going to school late or something like that. So.
You know, I had a chain wallet, and at the time, I remember, you know, girl I had dated, the first gift she gave me was a wallet. She's like, "You got to get rid of that chain wallet. It has an 8-ball on it. It looks tacky."
You're like, what? You've never seen Swingers before?
So, guys,
That's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
It is.
Why do you think new metal faced so much criticism?
Because of its hip hop influence. I mean, plain and simple, it was heavy music, but it had rapping, you know, vocals. Although, you know, not all these bands had singers that were rapping. A lot of bands get lumped into this new metal genre, but they didn't have singers that were necessarily rapping. Because of that, people got butthurt about it. You know, the two styles blending, you know, ignoring the fact that in 91, two of the most prominent groups in their respective genres got together and recorded Bring the Noise. And we're talking about Anthrax and Public Enemy. So it's not like it was anything brand new. It was just, you know, another, you know, a new take on it, I guess. And that's really the main thing. Is just like you had the traditional heavy metal bands. I know there was a lot of, I would read about traditional heavy metal bands just fucking hating the fact that rap vocals were present in heavy music. Like it was kind of stupid, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think that a lot of it had to do with like people not liking the mix, like heavy metal, like diehards not liking the mix of hip hop and metal. Maybe hip hop artists not liking the fact that, you know, these fucking 16-year-old white dudes
That's
are
true. I didn't even think
rapping and doing heavy metal. I think that it's kind of like an homage to all the great hip hop music of the 80s and 90s, and also the heavy metal groups of the 80s and 90s, and blending them together. You know, I think it's because the new metal artists were heavily influenced by them and wanted to do like, hey man, I love hip hop and I love metal. I wonder what it would sound like if we did some kind of blend to it. So I think that it was cool. I think that it was genius. It's not everybody's cup of tea, of course, because you get these people that are only into hip hop or only into metal, and they're just like, oh, you got to keep them separate. But like the Offspring, right, Joe? But I think they got a lot of slack for that specific reason, but I don't think it's warranted.
The criticism of new metal, I think a lot of people considered it the dumbing down of rock. If rock were a famous family, like if subgenres of rock were the Baldwin brothers, new metal is like the Stephen Baldwin of rock. Not Usual Suspect Stephen Baldwin.
But
Biodome.
Biodome.
But why do they say that? Because of what?
I think the lyrics. I think it's
the biggest grunge song of all time has these amazing lyrics, and they're so deep. Smells like Teen Spirit. What are the lyrics again?
When the lights out, entertain.
No. Hello. How low? That's ingenious rapping and rhyming there, Randall. What else? What are some other lyrics? We can't talk about the lyrics being dumbed down and it's dumbed down rock. And then you hear, oh, the biggest grunge song of the 90s was Smells Like Teen Spirit. The lyrics fucking suck for that shit, too. And they're not exactly you're probably looking for poetry here, like Arcade Fire. There was no poetry in Smells Like Teen Spirit. compared to something that's like fucking follow the leader or falling away from me from Corn.
If you think about it, and like I said, this is research based. This is not my opinion. Do I think there are a lot of new metal songs that were elementary, like a lot of stuff that Limp Bizkit brought out? Sure, but do I also think there was a lot of structure and thought to some new metal music? And yes, Bob, you're right. Korn, Deftones, some of these other bands, Breaking Benjamin, even Papa Roach, who I'm not a big fan
Breaking
of.
Benjamin.
They put a lot of thought, and their lyrics were a lot about the moral decay of society and the depression and the angst. So I don't think the lyrics were bad necessarily, but I just think that we bunched them all together. And maybe unfairly so, would you say? Where we see the party music. Go ahead.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Like they're like, well, there's one band, not a big fan of like their style of music, the way they use the lyrics, blah blah blah. And then like all new metal's like that. Yeah, but they're definitely not. If you go, and I know Joseph could agree with me on this, you just go listen to the entirety of the Deftones White Pony album. Fucking fantastic, from lyrics to sound to guitar play to everything. Like that entire album is really, really, really amazing. And I don't think, and it, of course, it's going to get lumped into new metal because that's what they were. But it's amazing shit. It's really good stuff.
And a lot of it was gimmick driven. And what happens with gimmicks. And I'm going to sound like a broken record here, mentioning the same bands over and over. But you know what bands I'm talking about? The bands that came out with gimmicks, or the bands that sort of rose to the top. When you're
like Marilyn Manson.
Well, yeah, Limp Bizkit and some of these other bands that were not as strong vocally or instrumentally. And so these were the bands that were like planting the flag of new metal. Even Kid Rock in a lot of his songs, right? Kid Rock, one of the worst rappers who ever lived, was doing new metal, and everybody was thinking, okay, this is where music is going. So when you have these sort of like front loaders sort of leading the way to a genre, people think, okay, they all sound like that, but they don't. And that's what we're here to talk about, right? We're here to talk about some of the good bands like Deftones and Stained and some of these other bands who actually had some pretty good songs,
You should have seen him look up to try to think of another band that was good for me. He's like the Deftones or...
There was a long pause. I put the recording on pause, and Joseph, give me a band.
You said it with a question mark too at the end of it. Stained?
See, we will lock heads on this, and it would be a whole. It's something we'll do in our own personal time when we're together. But I will get to it. Your hatred of Limp Bizkit and that first album
it's bad.
No, it's not. That's the thing, though, dude. You're focusing on one aspect of it, which is the rap. And yes, he maybe rhymed the same word with the same word in a sentence, but like if you actually sat down, took the time, and went and looked at those songs, read the lyrics, they were all about like breakups and
Spears,
and whatnot, and the just being angry and angry well, they weren't teenagers at the time, but angry young adults and whatnot. And I think you're too critical of that, and oh my God, the musicianship of those dudes play like, and I'll get into that later. But you're focusing too much on.
Well, let's
Fred Durst
get angry.
Let's get to this now, because
mosquito, my libido, Joseph, tell him lyrics.
You put my tender heart in a blender, which you stole from Eve 6, right? So you think about new metal's reputation as angsty music. Does it unfairly overshadow its artistic merit? So, Joseph, let's talk about some of the talented musicians. I got a few here. Bob, Joseph, chime in. Corey Taylor, Amy Lee, Wes Borland, Chino Moreno, Mick Thompson.
Why do you have to mention Amy Lee?
Tom Morello. Joseph, side with me on that one. Joey Jordan.
I don't consider it. Evanescence is more like a
emo
pop rock. Yeah, emo.
Anyway, they were the whole of
she's
metal.
She's a great sound. She's a great.
Whole is one word to use.
She's a great songwriter. I'll give her that. Like
Matt McDonough and Sam Rivers. These are some of the most talented musicians in the world, and they were playing new metal. I don't think being in new metal bands hurt these artists. I think that these artists were the reason new metal gained any sort of credibility. A lot of these songs blended and sounded the same, so it's difficult to pick apart too many monumental performances. But Bob and Joseph, talk about the musicianship.
Lot of great heavy guitar. A lot of these, like, so one of the characteristics of new metal is its groove sound, this groove metal type, because of course there's bands that were doing their thing and some of them were having rapping. So a lot of these bands, though, if you look at their actual, musicians, their bass players, Sam Rivers of Limp Bizkit, guy can fucking jam. He's a finger bass player, so he doesn't pick. He uses his fingers for everything, and he's tapping is really awesome.
You see Josie moving his fingers everywhere, ladies.
I really
he's moving
was.
his fingers everywhere for you.
It really was, and of course,
Really
like
to film this.
and so one of the bands that I know their fans probably don't like that will get lumped into this, and maybe you don't agree that Rage Against the Machine is new metal.
I do agree that they are. Yeah, Tom
But
Morello.
they got
yeah.
Tom Morello is one of the greatest guitar players
Yeah.
Of all time.
He just can't fucking sing for shit. Sorry,
Yeah,
Tom.
he's
I love
can't.
you,
He's
bro,
like, yeah,
but you're
yeah, he
the
can't. He's
greatest
not the,
guitarist,
yeah.
one of the greatest everybody.
Not
You
one
just
of the
don't
best.
sing. Come on.
Yeah, not one of the best singers, but like guitar players. And I know some of these bands have DJs in them. I don't necessarily care for the DJ. I don't think the DJ is needed. Corey Taylor, you mentioned Corey Taylor, like that dude has written some heavy fucking lyrical songs, like about maybe a shit childhood, and or hard times, but like
Yeah, that they for definitely have some
Like a-
great percussion and DJ
Yeah.
and heavy metal rock and everything. Slipknot and Corey Taylor being the lead singer, amazing shit.
I guess you can say the angsty, quote unquote, angsty reputation does overshadow their. Yeah, I can agree with that, because people are only looking at one thing and they're not realizing that some of these Mick Thomas and James Rooter's two of the best heavy metal guitar players in the business right now. The two guitar players for Slipknot.
I stand by Amy Lee, Bob. I don't care what you say.
She doesn't stand by you. I'll stand by you.
Bring me back to life. Go ahead, Bob.
I mean, like you look at bands like Korn and Fieldy, also finger bassist, two guitarists, Head and Monkey. They did have some DJ work in certain songs. They did have Jonathan Davis would play the fucking bagpipes. He could rap. He could scream. He could sing on key. I mean, there's a lot of different. I know we make fun of Kid Rock in his rapping. His music wasn't that good, but when Ball with the Ball came out, it was a fucking huge hit.
It was. I'll give him that.
You play that at a party, you're gonna jam to it, right?
Yeah.
Bull God was a good song
drive
too.
fast into
Like
the freeway.
I don't know what, like, okay, and we're not going to get into it. I know this guy's making completely different music right now, and I don't think it's anything sounding like what he did. What this I can't remember the name of the first album.
Devil Without a Cause.
Is that the name of the first album?
I think it's his second. I think it's his breakthrough album. Yeah.
You're talking about,
the breakthrough. Yeah,
Okay,
the breakthrough album that had Ball with the Ball, Bull God. I'm not gonna lie, those were some good fucking songs. I was
and
jamming,
then it was Cowboy Baby.
I was jamming Ball with the Ball in my truck, like on blast, dude. Like
with his backwards red hat, Randall, in your face.
Yes, there you go. Only God knows why he did that. So, why did new metal's popularity fade so quickly? And do you think it will ever experience a revival?
Look, I'm not gonna lie. Like I've said before, a lot of what my Instagram now is scrolling through reels, and I actually get a lot of music stuff, like a lot of bands. I've actually been really happy about finding like a lot of music that I didn't know, new bands that I've gotten into because I'm scrolling through reels on Instagram, and their promo reel comes out on my feed, and a lot of the time, and more times than not, I'm actually hearing about these bands that put something together, and their little promo is like, oh, we were we grew up listening to they're young kids. Like, it's kind of like us saying we grew up listening to Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. They grew up listening to Korn and Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park and Slipknot and things like that, Cold Chamber. So that's what their influence is, and that's what they're doing as far as music. There's a band called Never Easy that I've been listening to. It's these two-piece musicians that kind of, it's not necessarily a White Stripes thing, but I'm into their album. Like, I think it's cool. It does have those elements of like new metal, a little bit of shoegaze music. That's kind of that atmospheric stuff. And it does have its roots in new metal, and they look like new metal kids. They look like kids that we probably would have seen in high school when we were younger, except way more tattooed. Because it's just hey, I got tattoos. I'm not complaining, but a lot of these kids today are really tattooed. So not on the level that we had at the time. I'm sorry, I know I'm taking a little bit long with this answer. We won't experience a.
I was at the work tomorrow, Joseph.
Yes. This is never easy, or whatever that bad thing.
It won't be like as big as it was, but there's kids out there today that are putting out music and saying like they were inspired by new metal. So, we can leave it at that.
No, I don't think there'll be another revival of it. I think that it died off when it needed to die off. I think there was a big changing of the guard. I think everything became about radio friendly and poppy, and so I think that's what it turned into, like, radio friendly poppy music. And I think all like the heavier stuff kind of like faded to the background once 2005, 2006 kicked in. I think the music changed as it normally does. But I don't know if we'll have a revival. I don't really hear any great rock music right now. I don't see anybody who'd be like, you know what, let me fix that. Let me add some new metal elements or anything like that. So it'd be nice for music to just get better in general. But yeah, I don't see any sort of revival. I don't know what the hell the state of rock music is right now. But hopefully, one day over the rainbow, it'll be better.
I think the reason it faded out, overexposure, saturation, and their audiences quit hanging around at the 7-Eleven parking lot, and they got real jobs. You can only be angry, confused, and aggressive for so long. Then the only machines you're raging against.
Then you turn into the lead singer for Stained.
Yeah, I mean,
country.
You can only be confused and aggressive for so long, and then the only machines you're raging against is the lawnmower and the washer and dryer. Classic soulful rock and even grunge had levels of machinations of manipulating emotions and thought. New metal was a one-speed vehicle. You can only be so angry for so long before the adrenaline wears thin. You shouldn't be an angry parent with cargo pants and a backwards baseball cap on. I'm just saying. And 1 year you're down with a sickness, then one day you can't go to work because of kidney stones, indigestion, and bad allergies. The real sicknesses that we are now down with. So everybody just got older. I think the anger just faded away. Now you just
sounds like a Stained lyric.
You're just pissed off at your work and whatever. But let's go on to our honorable mentions. Joseph, what do you got for us?
I am pissed off from that work. Anyway, I got Bulls on Parade by Rage, Dig by Mudvayne, Mud Shovel, Stained, 7 Words by Deftones, Bleed by Soulfly, Denial by Seven Dust. Really great, probably
great in concert
band. Yeah, great show. Loco by Cold Chamber, Push It, Static X, Eyeless by Slipknot, Southtown by POD. Ooh, that was a good one to get pumped up before a game. And Adidas by Korn. Bob?
Adidas. I had Slipknot's Wait and Bleed, Deftones, My Own Summer, and Passenger off the White Pony album, great song.
Yeah, great.
I had POD as well, dude, Southtown. Korn, Blind, Freak on a Leash, Falling Away From Me, all three, like, just great jams. I did have Kid Rock's Ball with the Ball, Randall, because it was a hitter.
Yes.
It was a big hit. It really was.
Yeah. Mudvayne, Dig, System of a Down, Chop Suey. I have Chevelle, Joseph the Red, another great band. In concert. Yeah. Incubus, Pardon Me.
I forgot to mention those dudes. Yeah, of course.
That's how they started off before they went, a little bit commercial, softer side, poppy.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that, but
yeah.
they started off with Pardon Me, which is Trust Company, Downfall, great song.
I love that
and
song.
then I had one of Joseph's favorite. You skipped your high school football practice to go see Taproot. Poem, great jam.
I went to go see Deftones. They were there though. It was a great show.
So for my honorable mentions, I had One Step Closer, Linkin Park. I had Bodies by Drowning
The
Pool.
only guy with Linkin Park. Good job, Randall.
I had Bodies by Drowning Pool, whose original band name was Food Poisoning Kitchen. No, I had Prayer by Disturbed, Numma Numma. I had Bulls on Parade, Rage Against the Machine. Not their best song, but probably their most new metal sounding song. I had Dig by Mudvayne, Away From Me by Puddle of Mud, Mud Shovel by Stain, Fly From the Inside from Shinedown, Across the Nation by the Union Underground. You know why, Joseph? What show did it open?
Raw.
It opened Monday Night Raw. You got
Monday
it.
Night Raw.
Yes.
Those guys are from San Antonio, actually.
You got Downfall, Trust Company, Giving In by Edema.
Great song.
if they sounded a bit like Korn, vocalist Mark Chavez is the half brother of Korn frontman Jonathan Davis. So, Wait and Bleed by Slipknot. Guys who hated their parents love this song. Not me. Alive by POD. By the way, lead singer of POD, Sonny Sandoval, I believe came up with the name Nevaeh for his daughter, which is heaven spelled backwards. And now every college professor has like 3 or 4 Nevaehs in their class roster. So thank you, Sonny Sandoval.
Yep. That was. You notice you're naming a lot of Mexicanos too that are lead singers.
Got to support him, right? And my final few: Chop Suey by System of a Down, So Cold by Breaking Benjamin. And speaking of cold, Stupid Girl by Cold, Freak on a Leash by Korn, My Own Summer, Shove It by the Deftones. And I would be remiss if I didn't have a Limp Bizkit song on here, guys. So let's just go with Nookie, because you got to have him on this list, right?
Cool music video.
Yes, very fun. So we're going to go to our selections. Joseph, you're kicking us off. What is the best nu metal song of all time?
A lot of your songs were actually on my honorable mentions too. I could have just done a full list and we would have been here for an hour. Anyway, all right, for my selection, I went with Counterfeit by Limp Bizkit, the quote unquote poster boys for nu metal label. All right. It's not the first song I heard from Limp Bizkit, but it's probably one of my favorites. I'll admit that. I bought this CD based on hearing their other single, Sour, and immediately I was very, very happy with my purchase. This album is probably one of the best of its time in this of its time in music, this time in music, and nobody's ever going to tell me otherwise. I love the slow ominous guitar intro, the build up to this song, the whisper vocals, and then bang, right into it, right in your face, the heavy metal part, the song, the metal part of the song, so to speak. 3 extremely talented musicians, like I was kind of getting into a little bit. This is where I took issue with what Rand said. John Otto on drums, Sam Rivers on bass, and highly underrated Wes Borland on guitar.
Sandy Rivers, I hate that guy.
Wes Borland, seriously, like go look at this guy play guitar, what he does is live when he was playing these songs, what he does just on his own. He's just as innovative in his own right, in his own time and style as somebody like Tom Morello. Not crazy Tom Morello, but as far as this time and genre of music, Wes Borland was that guy. I lost myself. I had my.
You said Wes Borland, greatest guitarist ever.
All right. Okay, here we go. These 3 guys put together some of the heaviest songs on this first album. This first album was, of course, more raw and powerful. And I know, different from like the follow-up albums, Significant Other and Chocolate Starfish, and it's not to say that those aren't bad. Those aren't albums that I like. This one was just the first one, and I think it was the opener. This is when they were more younger, more angsty, more angry, so to speak. And then of course we got Fred Durst, doing his thing. This is the rap part of the song, right? Of the rap metal combo. They were criticized for this, but Fred could also scream and bring out his own guttural vocals, which you do hear on the song in the chorus of it. The whole "well, I'm sick of you too." You're like, that's he held his own pretty well in that part, and I really liked that. And that's what I really loved about this song. It was heavy, it was in your face, it was unapologetic in its lyrics. The song was written about bands that Limp Bizkit felt were copying their sound and style, and this. This took aim at them. And I know Randy's probably thinking, well, they copied and blah, 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 whatever.
I did not say that. Or am I not going to say that either?
It sounded like Mr. Mackey.
It's easy, guy.
But I've always really enjoyed this song. I know that's, me being biased, so to speak, but it really is everything of what someone would call, nu metal music, the rap, the heavy metal, the screaming vocals, and then some. So I was always, and of course, like when we talk about, this genre, one of the first things we talk about, of course, when you mention nu metal, anybody's going to say fucking Limp Bizkit. So this was not their first single, but it was probably their best song off. I know the cover for Faith was huge in its way, its own, and that's what, really, I guess, took them off and had, other people listening to them. But Counterfeit, probably their best song ever, best song off of this first album, and specifically what I think about when I am told what nu metal actually is. Randy, I know you've probably never been a fan of this song, but Limp Bizkit was right. They were right, Randy. We were all sick of you too, the band. All right. So we had to.
I guess that's cueing me to answer first. Okay.
Go ahead, Ren.
This song is historically significant for a couple of reasons. Now, Joseph, I have it on my notes. It was their first single, but you're saying it wasn't, right?
No, it was.
It was? Okay.
I heard Sour first. I'm sorry.
Okay. But
that
this
was the first one. Yes.
But okay. And they paid to get this on the air. So it was money well spent depending on who you talk to. I had never heard this before, Joseph. I'd never heard this song before. And I noticed there wasn't
till I told you what I was picking. I've never
heard the song. I've never heard the song.
Until I told you what
until you told me, yes.
Oh my God.
I've never heard the song.
Okay.
And with
wow.
I say that proudly. Anyway, I never heard the song before, and I noticed there wasn't as much pretense to it as later Limp Bizkit singles. And of course, this was because they had yet to hit it big. Inspired by Korn's success, I will give Limp Bizkit credit. They were this oracle that knew that this terrible genre was going to be huge. They were diviners. I mean, they predicted it and they were right. You got to give them credit. Their record company paid a radio station in Portland, Oregon, $5,000 to play this song 50 times. And it was money well spent, depending on who you ask. Okay, I always thought their cover of George Michael's Faith was their first single because that was the first song I listened to. But no, it was Counterfeit, and I just discovered it to this episode. Who says you don't learn anything here? I am a visual guy, Joseph, so you know I had to go to the video. And of course, the song is from their first album, $3 Bill, y'all. And this is 1997, months before the boom of nu metal. Not only are they one of the biggest nu metal bands on the planet, they're in the Mount Rushmore of it, but they were also the forefathers. And I'm a visual learner, so you know me. I go straight to the video, and yes, it was as low budget as you can get in the band. You have one guy dressed like a rapper, one guy dressed as a goth kid, one guy dressed as a cholo, one guy wearing a basketball jersey, and one guy dressed like a skater. This is like a presentation project for a high school. It doesn't look like a music video. They're all mixed up. They look like they're from 5 different bands. But we see the seeds of Fred Durst's obnoxiousness, but also, quote unquote, his calculations, right? Like, this dude was just born annoying, but he knew how to get to people. What I can give credit to, despite that this song being released before the actual nu metal boom, is that it sounds like a song that inspired bands that came after them. Listening to it, I thought, did I miss the single? Because I was thinking it was from like 2000 or 2001 after they hit it big. This was before they hit it big. But then I saw the very 1997 hats, the sideburns, the soul patches, and realized these sons of bitches were ahead of the game. They were on top of this shit. This is why they're so prominent. And now I have to give this terrible band some credit. Also, I got goosebumps while listening to Nookie for this show. But that's just my body betraying me like it does when I do P90X. Anyway, do I think it's a great song? No, but I do think it's an important influence to what was to come. Absolutely. My biases against Limp Bizkit aside, I have to give credit to them for inspiring this genre and making it as big as it was. But the style of this song is spot on, and I can respect bands that hustled like Limp Bizkit did and were a part of influencing something. So despite any any bad things I say about Limp Bizkit, guys, I do respect them, and I will say that. What do you think, Bob?
Limp Bizkit did have a lot of hits during that time. I know Rand mentioned like the Mountain Rushmore of I think that maybe they could definitely they should be on it, or at least they should be number 4. But I think Counterfeit is a great song. Nookie was a great song. I know that had a lot of big hits that I wasn't a big fan of. And I think that Randy, this is where you come in and saying like lyrically it's not that great. Like you talk about like break stuff, right? Keep rolling. Not really like known for, you know what I mean? They're just making catchy songs that go on the radio. So I think that Counterfeit was a good pick, Joseph, because it wasn't just that commercial catchy nu metal song that you want to hear on the radio over and over and over.
The radio play ones. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's why I think it's good. You know what I mean? I think that's very raw, very original to the genre. It's a good pick. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Limp Bizkit song, but I think it's a decent pick, man. I don't know if it's the best nu metal song I've ever heard. I think I have one that rivals it. I think we've mentioned a few that are honorable mentions that are pretty fucking great too. But I can see why you picked it. I think it's a good song. It's a solid song. I just don't think it's the best one.
I'm glad. No, I'm happy that you all see what I was trying to. I guess maybe I didn't because I'm an idiot sometimes. And I'm an idiot.
I'm your boyfriend.
I'm glad that you all see what I see in this song is yes. Look, I will die on my sword defending Limp Bizkit. I do know that the later albums got a little more catchy radio. Like, yes, they definitely steered into that. Fred Durst was a businessman. He was a smart businessman, and it worked. I mean, dude is like, I know I've shared a video once. I'll try to do this quick. I shared a video once of a Limp Bizkit concert maybe earlier this year, and that place was packed and people were jumping. I shared that with Randy, and I said, Randy, they're still bringing in the crowds, bro. Next year they're going on tour with Metallica. I mean, shit, they did something right in this life. So and I'm glad like that you all can see that, at least at that first part. Like in the beginning, these guys, I thought they were better, more true to this genre, more than, you know, the catchy stuff that you heard.
Yeah, I will say this though. I will say this: they made a lot more catchy, radio-friendly shit than they did raw new metal stuff. So I think that's their biggest fault, at least as far as argument's sake. I think they made way too much radio-friendly, quote unquote, songs for the sake of making radio-friendly songs, quote unquote.
I would be interested in doing a deeper dive on this band. I think we could do a Limp Bizkit show in the future, and I would even pick my favorite Limp Bizkit song and roll with it. No pun intended. But I honestly think I honestly, and you know what, Joseph, you talked about that concert. You weren't the only one that sent me that clip. I had 3 other friends who said, "You see, fucker, they're still bringing it. They're still yes."
Even though Fred Durst looks like he's like 60 and like Santa Claus.
He's very much steered into it. He's like, I know I'm old. I'm still doing this shit.
Yes, morons as far as the eye can see. But hey, they're still bringing. They're still making money. I think nostalgia is a big component. Of course, we love nostalgia here. So, hey, go on and do your thing. If people are still coming in and buying your tickets and listening to your music, there's nothing wrong with that. So more power to them. We'll go on to our next selection. That's me. And I selected Last Resort by Papa Roach. First of all, what a dumb fucking band name. I got to admit it, okay?
Yeah, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, you know, the lead singer was sitting there and thought, I'm going to form an aggressive metal band, and I'm going to name it after 2 things I hate the most, my father and cockroaches. Okay, so I will be...
I think, just throwing this out, I think it's like a play on words, pop a roach, like the pills. Like
there
the
you
drug.
go.
There you go. So just throwing that out there. And now you think, oh, fuck, genius.
Genius. It's a great. Let's delete that whole first 2 minutes ago. Okay. I will be the first to admit some of the drama and angst that new metal provided was humorous, right? I mean, you go from Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Alice in Chains, and then you go to songs that sounded like, I'm mad because my parents took away my AOL and told me I need to focus on my pre-cal homework. And that's what I felt that new metal kind of like appealed more to, like the whinier sort of like, I want to hate my parents instead of like change society fans, but we won't get into that. But Last Resort by Papa Roach took on a deeper meaning, and Papa Roach didn't mix words. They sang about, you know, the self-harm and suicidal ideations, reaching a breaking point. Do I put the song on my way to work? No. I want to feel good about my day. I'm playing Let Your Love Flow by the Bellamy Brothers. I'm not playing Last Resort by Papa Roach.
Bill Bellamy made a song with his brother.
But Tobin Esperance of Papa Roach said Last Resort was so popular because the meaning of the track struck a note with fans. When you think of new metal, I think of the weirdness of growing up as a digital native, being disconnected to so many things when you're connected to absolutely everything. The looming change of the world as the new millennium draws. So there's weird emotions involved, and oftentimes that's a mix with sadness. I chose this song not because I thought it was a banger or a timeless hit. On the contrary, I think it's very much of its time sonically and tonally. Sonically, but tonally, it's very much still holds the conventions of what young people feel. And I think it connected to young people. That's just an honesty to the song where aggression isn't about fame or wanting to blow up the world. It's about confusion and emotion. And I think that's why this song resonated with fans in 2000. The video even recruited genuine fans from the band. So many bad dye jobs, white undershirts, and bead necklaces. So while Fred Durst was gallivanting around with beautiful women wearing backwards red caps, these guys had everyday looking kids represented in their video. And I think that's important because it's an important thing that the song connects to their fans. I could have done without the guy curling the barbell with 5-pound plates, but the real fans in the song I thought was genius. The song to me is the best representation of new metal and its core audience. I think that it speaks to the audience. It speaks about the struggle of being young. It speaks about the struggle of confusion. It speaks about the struggle of being connected yet disconnected. And I think Papa Roach really just amplified and really just hit the nail on the head when it came to that generation and that zeitgeist. What do you guys think about this song?
This was a good pick as far as the band's concerned. Last Resort was such a huge hit in 2000 when it came out. I believe that's when it came out, right? Their debut album, The Last Resort. I like that you talked about the lyrics. This dude he grew up, the lead singer, I want to say, he grew up like super poor. Him and his mom lived in somebody's like laundry room for a good while, and he had a pretty rough upbringing, pretty rough life. So for him to have some pretty deep lyrics, it's actually pretty good if you know the backstory about the dude. I mean, like a lot of shit kind of makes sense, so to speak. I like this song. Last Resort was probably their catchiest tune. Between Angels and Insects is fucking awesome. That one would have been, if you had chose that one, I'd be like, Jesus Christ, that's a really, really, really good song. Last Resort had that great catchy guitar riff, great lyrics, connected a lot of people, cool music video as well. Big argument against it, you could say anything, was I would have gone with Between Angels and Insects, between Last Resort and maybe another song like She Loves Me Not. Great songs, very catchy, very radio friendly, big hits. This is a good band. They really did fit the mold of the new metal stuff, dude. And their only downfall, and I think we can say this about most of the new metal bands that were popular, they went very commercial to an extent to keep the ride going, you know what I mean? To keep the popularity going, to keep the money flowing, to keep the albums flowing. So I think they fall into that category as far as the next album was a little more commercial, next album a little more commercial as far as, so for concerts, for radio, and et cetera, music videos. But this is a good band. This is a good band, good pick, a good representation of new metal, dude.
I'll start this off by saying, like, I don't know, maybe it's because of who, like, their image now, and because Bob was right, they very much steered into this sort of almost pop punk emo vibe that I get from them. That's what they're doing now. Like, that's what I see when I see this band in anything new from them. Go ahead, Randy.
I just saw them on Family Feud last week against Daughtry, and okay. and they were a really good family. Yeah.
That's a long way away from. But no, that's
I don't know. It's worse them being on Family Feud or you watching them on Family Feud.
That's cool. Like, I'm not trying. I don't knock anybody's success. I don't. That's not what. If that's what this band and Jacoby Shaddix, is that?
Yes, Jacoby Shaddix. Yes,
Jacoby Shaddix. Getting to a point, I guess, where he's good in life. That's great. Because like Rob said, this album, I know this album because I had this album. I own this album, and I listened to a lot of the songs. And a lot of this first album are very, very heavy subject matter. Yeah, and I guess that you can give them the edge on that over my selection and Limp Bizkit in itself. If you're gonna nitpick on something like that, I really don't think that's a thing, because I don't think this music is, or this genre of music, because I know we talked about the angst of it, but I think there's more to it than just being angst and angry. So lyric wise, the subject matter, great. I mean, not great, but like good for. It's good when a song can reach someone, help them, maybe hear somebody that went through or feels like you feel, and you feel you're not alone. Specifically with this topic, and I like that, and I love it. So I'm not going to take any, obviously I won't take anything away from that. It was I obviously bought this album off of this one song. I was a little disappointed in the album myself. I didn't think too many songs were as good as this one, and the one that Bob mentioned, Between Angels and Insects. That is a really good song. That it actually is. That one could have been their first single, but it wasn't. Lyric wise, so I'm just going to talk about the music. Great song musically. I loved the heavy tone, the guitar play, I loved that whole sound, heavy drums. It was a really great song. Jacoby Shaddix is not a terrible singer. I think when he raps, because there is that section where he does, when he's not singing the chorus, I'm losing my sight, losing my mind, and actually doing that whole part, that he's actually a pretty good singer. I don't like his new music now, and that's, but I know he can sing it. But as far as rapping, like the whole, when he's The verses where he's rapping, I think he's terrible at that. He sounds a little weird. But and it's just a music thing. I'm not trying to, like I
Yeah,
said,
for
I don't
sure,
want to
for
take
sure.
away from the lyrics at all, because it really was a great song. Really, really impactful, really, really big for the. I just, like Bob said, I hate that they changed up the way that they did, because it makes me not be a fan of them, and it makes me like kind of turn the song off when I hear it, because I'm just kind of like over it. Very
Tell him,
important,
keep it
very
real. You got to keep it real.
very monumental in its own right, and time. This one, I was like, wow, like, because it does, you do see a difference between this song and my selection, I guess, and that's because they were only, what, 3 years apart.
Yeah.
And this is kind of, well, this is debatable, but I know you mentioned in the beginning that its run was from like what, 97 to 2003.
Around there.
So we only had a, what, 97, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, I don't know math. 6 years.
Yeah.
And so this one kind of came out towards the tail end or right in the middle, and it tailed off maybe afterwards, because the next album came out towards the end of it. Really great song, not particularly my favorite from them, but I did buy this album based on the strength of this one particular song, and it's cool. I did like that. Their fans seem engaged, because try to not bring the physical, the visual media into these selections and these picks, but music reflects what you want to do, what you want to put out there as far as the vibe of the video, and it worked out good. And it's definitely, the style is a little different. They're not wearing such baggy jeans. It's borderline the Vines, or suits. Everybody's wearing black suit or something. But good song, good selection.
Like a black button-up shirt.
Definitely a top pick of most people, and what others would select when you're putting together a list of something like this.
This song was very big at the time and really spoke to audiences. My bone to pick with Papa Roach is that I don't know if this was the follow-up song, but was Scars after this song? Because Scars was a very like poppy.
That was like
no, that was like 2 albums later.
Okay.
That Last Resort came out in 2000. I think Scars came out either 2002 or 2004. I want to say 2004.
The next lead single, because they did do a video for
Insects and
between Insects and Angels. I do believe they did a video for that one, and then their next album had Getting Away with Murder.
That was I remember. Single. Yeah, I remember that song.
And so I think that song you mentioned right now was either the album after that or another album after that, because they very much steered into this. He's got tattoos all over his face and arms now, and it's a completely different guy. I'm not knocking the tattoos. I'm just saying he looks a little emo-y.
Yeah, they did get to that emo. But hey, you grow up and your problems are different, right? So we're gonna wrap up with Bob. What do you have for the best new metal song of all time?
Well, let me just mention this. I'm surprised that Joseph didn't mention the Deftones. From a guy that's gone to see the Deftones probably more than any other band he's ever gone to see. They're definitely. Well, what would you say?
He mentioned 7 words, right? Was that one of your selections?
Well, it's from their first album. Look, their first album, the closest that
we'll call it melancholy metal.
The first album, Adrenaline, is probably the closest to the new metal genre.
Shove It and Mount
out
Summer.
There. I'd say Around the Fur, the second album, was more towards an alternative heavy metal. You can go back and look at interviews when they were recording White Pony. They even said themselves, like, we want to do what we want to do.
We don't rap. We don't want to. It's too vulgar.
We just go, yeah.
we don't want to be lumped into this, this one thing. So yeah, I of course, if anybody goes and listens to 7 words, you'd probably think like, yeah, well, it fits. It's definitely new metal.
That was 1995, I believe, Joseph. That album, yeah. A lot of money.
They're just kids there.
Yes, Bob, what do you got for us?
Money. When I think new metal, I think of Korn. I don't think of Limp Bizkit. I don't think of any other band. I think of Korn. I think of Got the Life. I think of Follow the Fucking Leader. So my decision pretty quickly, I know Korn has a lot of fantastic hits. I think I mentioned like 3 or 4 of them in my honorable mentions. But the one I think that is the best, or we'll just call it one of the best out of their catalog, is Got the Life. One of their biggest successes. It's their biggest music video. It's their biggest... one of their biggest songs. It's one of the songs that shot them into superstardom. It got them on the map. It's one of the most requested music videos in all of 1998, and that's because it came out in August. So imagine those last few months, September, October, November, December, those last 4 months of 98, it became the most requested music video of that year in the last 4 months of the damn year. It's got like all the integration that you want. It has the rock, it has the metal, it has the hip hop elements, and it has that culture to it too. If you watch the music videos, you have that. Yeah, the Adidas jumpsuit, part of that little culture. It has the Puma shoes, the Adidas, Fieldy, who's Hispanic, hip hop, gangster, tattoos, FUBU jersey, basketball jerseys. They have
the guy getting his boogie on.
Yeah, for sure. They got an eclectic mix of stuff. Then they have this lead singer, Jonathan Davis, who's above and beyond, I'm sorry, anybody else that sang in new metal bands during that time period. Not only can he actually sing, but he can scream. He can, I was going to say moan like Chino, but no, he doesn't moan. He can scream. He could sing. He could rap. He could change his voice. His vocals and his vocal training was to another level. I love the way he used his voice in a lot of the songs. I love how they sped some up and they slowed some down. I love the fact that he played the bagpipes. I love the fact that they had not one but two guitarists, both of them switching off between rhythm and lead. Their drummer was excellent. Fieldy, again, he had a crazy, great bass sound that was lead in a lot of the songs. Yeah, he slapped the bass. He would slap the bass and I was going to say and finger the bass, but we're going off subject here. I love that their sound was like unique. But it was unique to the new metal thing. They helped make the genre what it was, but I don't think they ripped anybody off. I think they had their own unique sound that was new metal, that was Korn, and they had a fuckload of hits. And a lot of their hits, I don't feel like they had to go that poppy, radio-friendly sound. I know they may have a few, but I think they had some great shit that followed the Leader album, the Issues album, Joseph. They're just one of those bands, man, that I thought that really stood out in the new metal era, those 10 years or whatever it was. Maybe it was less than that. It was maybe like 8 years, 6 years. I think they really stood out, and I think they stayed successful after the fact because of their uniqueness. But Got the Life, dude. Great song, catchy song, huge song in 1998, and that's my pick, guys. What do y'all think about it?
I think that this is a really, really great selection as far as Korn goes, because Korn was one of my favorite bands. I think, if you knew me growing up, you knew that. Bob obviously knows that. Rand knows that.
Oh, I know.
As far as it's funny that it's funny that because Rand mentioned, I selected my pick because of, I use the elements of what, is being told to me or being written that of the characteristics of new metal, even though I don't necessarily agree with all of it, which is why I didn't select a Deftones song, because I don't think, for the most part, all of Deftones albums, I don't consider them new metal. It's funny that Rand mentioned, said that, Limp Bizkit or my selection Counterfeit was the beginning of it. Korn's first album came out in '94. If you listen to that album, I don't get a new metal vibe from it. I really don't. There's not really rapping on it. I don't hear Jonathan Davis songs in his lyrics. And goes to their second album, Life is Peachy, which came out in '96. So Follow the Leader came out in '98, around the time that Limp Bizkit came out with their debut album. And of course, they're all friends. You see, if you watch this music video, a cool music video, by the way, really, really great music video, you'll see that Fred Durst and some of the guys in Limp Bizkit are actually in this video at the end.
Eminem's in it too.
Yeah. Some of the guys from Orgy as well. This song, though, as far as new metal goes, this is probably Follow the Leader album. As much as not as much as I do love this album. I don't have anything against this album, but if you want to,
you're about to say something negative.
No. It's because this is a good selection. This is a good pick, very much so. I don't want to say I obviously think mine's better, but this is a great selection because this is the first album that I would actually consider Korn to have written in the quote unquote new metal style. This song specifically has that feel. It has that vibe. It's got the heaviness. It's got the, Bob was mentioning the bass play by Fieldy, that funk, the slap bass, keeping it going. Jonathan is actually sort of like, rapping his lyrics. I do think he is a really great singer. I did think he had a good voice and whatnot. And of course, like Bob mentioned too, the style. I think I think Monkey and Head are wearing chain wallets, so that plays into this.
They got the life.
They had the life, right? But this album, and it's a great album in itself, is more to that, true to that new metal style, so to speak. And a lot of people are probably going to gravitate to, and I talked about this a little bit with Bob when you told me a selection. A lot of people are probably going to think more to what was their biggest hit off of this album.
Freak on a Leash.
Freak on a Leash, yes. Exactly. And it's a great song. It's not that it's a bad song or anything like that. It's just Got the Life is a better song. It was the lead single off of that album. I remember, at the time when this came out, we
still watch MTV.
Yeah, that, and I wasn't necessarily plugged into the internet as much as we are now. So I actually heard this song on the radio and I was like, that's a good fucking song. Sounds like Korn. This is Korn. Korn has a new album, and
yeah, because you couldn't just go Google it because we didn't have that shit. You had to go home and turn on MTV and hope they played a music video or talked about it or some shit.
Yeah, so I remember, hearing this song and I was like, well, fuck, I got to go get the new Korn album, Anyway, that's just my experience with it, but really great selection, Bob. Really great, more, like I said, more true to what the aspects of a new metal song are. I think that's where they really kind of, I don't want to say they went into this to make money, because they were already a very successful band and they were not afraid to change up their style. They've done it multiple times. They've changed up their style, a couple of albums later. They're still changing up their style. They've actually sound more darker and heavier nowadays. If you listen to any new Korn songs, they're a little,
now they're blue corn.
Yeah.
there's your dad joke of the night.
There you go. Bless you. not bless you, Joseph. Bless you, Bob, for that joke.
But really, really great selection. Like I said, I know people are probably going to think like, oh, well, Freak on a Leash, but no, it wasn't. Great song, but Got the Life is really up there. It's really definitely one of the more known ones, I guess. Very, like Bob said, this was around the time of the TRL era, and this song was beating out Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and the Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera.
Backstreet was not back. All right.
It's like Bob said, in the TR, like it was one of the most requested, most popular videos. It did reach #1 on TRL, which was like a massive thing back in the days. So great selection, great pick. Randy?
They could not beat Evan and Jared Crazy for This Girl, but they did beat all those other bands. Anyway, get your boogie on, right? I like the way Jonathan Davis's voice goes from this authoritative sort of gruff to the way he sort of ends some of the lyrics that like, I'll never ever follow, and he kind of changes. It's kind of funny to me because I don't know if it works nowadays, but for this album and for this song, the way his voice inflections changed were very impressive. This is a track from Korn.
Yeah, he had good range, man. He really did.
He did. He's a great musician. This track from Korn's 1998 album, Follow the Leader, which only had 2 singles released from it. We talked about both of them. A lot of people think the superior one is Freak on a Leash, but both these songs were huge hits. 1998 is a significant year because that's when new metal really takes off, and it's because of songs like this. You want to pick a song that immediately takes you back to an era within the first 5 seconds. This song does it. It takes you back immediately. You put it on and you're back in 1998 with your gelled spike hair and your Adidas track suit or whatever. This song has the sound, the video has the aesthetic, and at least it's honest because it's Korn interpreting, the perils of being famous. They are stating the darker side of success, and they are doing it in tracksuits and horrible sunglasses. I was watching this video and I couldn't tell if this was Got the Life or the first Fast and the Furious movie, but it's a great video. They had some money, so they splurged. Brian Head Welk talked about how this song itself was aggressive, but the drum beat was very disco, and he thought that might turn fans off because obviously people ate up the rough sounding Korn, the very metal driven Korn, but people ate this song up too. They loved the beats, that the beat slowed down and it was more musically inclined for those to open up to I don't want to say pop, but it opened up their sort of rock envelope to a new audience. And even though I'm not a fan of a lot of the Korn songs, let's get this straight. I mean, music is subjective. Listen to what you want, what makes you feel and how you want to feel. And although I think this song it's good, average maybe, I do think the concept is very smart. Lead singer Jonathan Davis talked about what this song meant to him. He said, how I looked up to God and I say, I don't want this fame anymore. I want something more out of life. how he loves being a rock star and all it entails. And let's face it, he could only get away with wearing that hairstyle if he were a rock star or a professional wrestler. But this song is about the pressure to stay a rock star. And he's telling God, take this away from me. But God is telling him, you got the life. You got to see the world. You have money. You're famous. You're in a famous band. And then God says, but unfortunately, you have to hang out with Fred Durst. No, I'm kidding about that last one. So even though I think this song is, it's good. It's good to okay. I get to learn things about music thanks to you two and thanks to this podcast. And I don't mean the band U2, Bono and The Edge. I mean Bob and Joseph. And what I learned,
leave the Edge out of this.
And what I learned is that this song is deep and it's honest, and I can respect that. Now, why Jonathan Davis has to wear a lime green velvet long coat while being reflective and honest, that's a whole other story. That's his deal. And Jonathan Davis gives off that aura of high school janitor who plays in a weekend cover band at small rock bars. But man, he's good at what he does. And the bars where I'm talking about the small bars where the bartenders are older women who talk like Harvey Firestein and have tattoos of a heart with a dagger through it on their chest, maybe 3 kids from 3 different fathers, big forearms. But man, you love when she calls you babe and knows your drink, right, Joseph? I think that's the sort of like vibe Korn gives off, like a small rock band that played in like dive bars and made it big. And I could respect that. Anyway, Korn is on the Mount Rushmore of new metal bands. So them being a selection is an expectation. I would have gone Freak on a Leash, but I do respect any Korn song that's mentioned because at one point in time, they were arguably the biggest band in the world.
Yeah,
it's funny that
you lost everybody at Harvey Feinstein.
You're saying, Joseph?
I'm thinking new metal, and I've tried to base like, all these selections or like what I think about these songs and based on what people write and say about new metal. So like I say, and Freak on a Leash it's a great song. It's a big hit, but there's the vibe of it doesn't give me, so that just sounds like a cool rock song, like a cool, it's heavy, so it's got the heaviness aspect, but like he doesn't give me a new metal vibe. It just sounds like a badass, heavy song. So and Got the Life it had that aspect of it, so it's cool, and I really like the video. I always thought it was them making fun of the kind of making fun of their success, because they obviously they were at this point,
being very realistic about their position in life and where it's taking them, and kind of being Jonathan Davis strikes me as somebody who's very like introverted. But he's incredibly talented and outgoing when he hits that stage. But you listen to him in interviews, you're like, this is the same guy who's shouting these lyrics.
He's really soft spoken, right?
Yeah, he's very different, but very good selections all around. Guys, final questions. I didn't get to ask this for the disco episode, but I wanted to ask this for this. Who's in the Mount Rushmore of new metal bands? We talked about it. I think we could agree on Limp Bizkit and Korn, but who do you think the other two are? Or are there completely 4 that you have? Different 4? I have mine. Could I say mine first?
Go for it.
So I think it's Limp Bizkit. I think it's Korn. And I would say the other 2 are Linkin Park and Slipknot. I think those are your 4 new metal Mount Rushmore bands.
I could go with Slipknot for sure. Linkin Park, maybe. Yeah, I mean, they were pretty successful. If you could throw in Stain there for a little bit, I think maybe Stain. I'd like System of a Down as well. Maybe a System of I can see like System of a Down. I'd probably have them in there, and Slipknot and Korn, and then like Joseph would have. I mean, I like Limp Bizkit, but I'm not in love with Limp Bizkit. So I don't know if they'd be on it for me, but I think you should definitely throw in a band like a System of a Down. They're definitely Slipknot for sure.
It's Limp Bizkit, Korn, Deftones, and Slipknot. Those are my 4.
Okay. You just said the Deftones weren't new metal, Joseph, and now you added him to the Mount Rushmore.
Because they get lumped into this. I don't agree with it, but it's like there's a fucking million people are going to tell me, yes, they are new metal. You guys are going to tell me they're new metal. So it is what it is.
I said melancholy metal.
So, guys, final thought.
I think Slipknot, their first album.
Are they not new metal?
I don't know, man. It depends on who you ask, I know that first album was very, obviously that first album, you go back and listen to it. Yeah, a lot of, Corey's not really rapping, but he's he's speaking his lyrics really fast and screaming them. But if you want to call that rapping, it's new metal. But I don't know, whatever.
But I find it an
I
interesting.
think it's very subjective.
Yeah, I find it an interesting dichotomy where you could say, "Hey, well, Slipknot is new metal," but you nobody says Tool is new metal, or at least not the people I know.
No,
They're slow.
They're slow.
progressive metal.
They're progressive. All right.
Progressive.
Final thoughts on new metal, guys. I
miss it. I love it. If I could, I go back and see these shows live. I'm thankful. I'm I've gotten to see a good amount of these bands. So later on in life, I've been able to see these bands. So I'm really happy with that. It's one of my favorite music genres in time because it was very much part of me growing up. So it would always be. But I like a lot of different music. So it's not the dominant one, and right now obviously I'm into like really, really heavy music. So it's it's just a great time. I have great memories of these bands and these songs and listening to them at different times in my life in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Bob?
Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to talk a little bit about it. It's a cool little 5-6 years, junior high school, for sure, college life where this music was really big. And it's obviously anything that happened during your high school years, movies, music, pop culture, band, they're usually a big part of your life. You know what I mean? You have like pretty fond memories of them or their connection to something else. So it's kind of cool to talk about this, whether we think that new metal is the greatest thing on earth or whether we think it's just okay or whether we're just not fans of it. It was still a big part of our growing up in our high school years. And like, so there's always going to be a connection there. And yeah, I agree. I wish we could see more of these bands. Like Joseph's seen the Deftones 80 times. So I think it's a cool topic, and I'm glad we talked about it. I think a lot of people would be interested. There's a lot of people around our age that were probably fans of these bands.
I have to give you both credit because, Bob, we were kind of joking about Nirvana, and Nirvana and grunge was big when I was in high school. I don't know if you were joking, but you're being incredibly rude. But you were joking about Nirvana. And,
those are the best jokes. They gotta be rude. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
When I was in high school, grunge was going on. When you guys were in high school, new metal was going on. So we're looking at these, or we're listening to these in different lenses, right? I was older. It was different. I've already sort of had like the youth sort of movement music that I had. This was the youth movement music for both of you. And so I have to understand that how important it was. Like you mentioned, good memories of you guys in the locker room or at parties or hanging out with your friends in Bob's garage or whatever you guys were doing at the time. This was the soundtrack of your youth. So yes, it is very important to both of you guys. And I have to understand that. And I think for new metal, it was more than a trend. It was a cultural phenomenon. And I think both of you expressed that very adroitly. And it was for young people, and it helped define a generation. It was important during the last thread of monoculture because it was universally accepted as the internet grew, as we were in a world where bubblegum pop was the king. So new metal was the alternative, right? And every generation needs music that speaks to feelings of alienation and vocalizes frustrating experiences. It was a voice for people like both of you who may have felt like they didn't have a voice, but this music spoke, right? You can question it as a passing fad or argue artistic merit and integrity, but what the genre did was build connections and expressions. I'm not the biggest new metal fan, but I respect the history it carved for itself, and every generation needs bands, and every generation needs their music. So I wholeheartely respect it, but I do want to ask one final question. How come nobody mentioned Saliva?
always.
Your disease is killing me.
They're very commercial. I actually had them like written down in my honorable mentions, but I didn't add it to the I didn't end up mentioning it. But yeah, I'm surprised nobody mentioned what is it, like Boom or Always. They're like, again, I don't know if they're new metal or they're just alternative metal. The guy has a badass car.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. Hair. I saw it on Cribs. Yeah, great hair too.
So guys, before we go, 20 seconds, anything that you're watching that you want to recommend? I just watched the Mr. McMahon documentary. I recommend it.
I'm 2 episodes in.
I won't go too far into it. A lot of people are saying, well, it's a lot of stuff we knew, wrestling diehards already, but the way the producers framed it, and I listened to a podcast, and they were talking about how they wanted this to be how people reacted to Vince McMahon as their boss, as their colleague, etc. And they were trying to target it to people who know little or nothing about Vince McMahon. If you don't know anything about Vince McMahon, whether the genius he did behind pro wrestling or the deplorable, horrible things he's done recently, it's an interesting watch. I recommend it.
Yeah, I'm 2 episodes in, and I even got the wife watching with me. I'm pretty much hooked. I saw we're watching Bad Monkey right now. It's the new Vince Vaughn show.
Yeah.
It's pretty entertaining. I like it a lot. Only Murderers in the Building. I think we're on season 3 or season 4, the newest one. And last weekend we saw Long Legs finally, or I did, and it was epic. It's a pretty. If you haven't seen Long Legs, guys, you need to rent it. You need to find a way to watch it on Amazon Prime or something.
Getting into the spooky season.
Yeah, it's one of the best horror movies I've seen in a very, very long time, and it's not like a jump scare style. It's just a great, like the way it's shot, the way it's filmed, the scenes. It's definitely got like the Shining vibe to it, the way it's shot. So I really like it.
Joseph, anything you're watching?
Not really watching anything now. But yeah, I Bob mentioned it, of course. I saw this movie. Wanted to see this movie based on just clips, and I'm sure you've seen some clips already if you're on scrolling through reels on Instagram and whatnot. If you don't know anything about it or you've seen those, we'll just try to like not spoil it. If you know who's in the movie, you know who's in the movie, you know what, whatever. But yeah, like really, really awesome movie. Can't say enough good things about it. You're kind of changing the genre, I guess, or maybe not, but like. Yeah, like Bob said, it's got a little mix of everything, and this is coming from the guy who loves the Conjuring stuff and is more geared towards that type of like horror movie right now because that's what I really like.
Dogs that kill people, yes,
yes. So we got this movie though.
Just like Sleeping with the Lights On. That's just what
just awesome. Can't say enough good about it. If you get a chance to go watch it, go watch it. Rand, you haven't seen it yet? Check that out. I know we will be talking about that the next time we get together. If you're able to watch it before then,
I will check out Long Legs based on both your recommendation. And that's our show, everyone. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up and let us know what you think the best new metal song of all time is. Most importantly, let us know what you think about the show. You may reach us at formidableopponents@gmail.com and follow us on all forms of social media by searching for Formidable Opponents. We want to thank Creative Little Pill for her great artwork. Please follow her on Instagram at Creative Little Pill. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on any podcast platform you're listening to us on. And join us next episode. It's going to be a Halloween-themed one. Best portrayal of a vampire in a movie. So for Bob and Joseph, this is Randall. We'll see y'all next week.
Keep on rolling, baby.
God, I hate that.